Hey guys, are we all ready? Okay, good. Hi guys, so today it's Coach Becky back with, we're going to go over how to squat properly and how to learn how to hip hinge, otherwise known as deadlifting. If you have anything at home, like a dumbbell, kettlebell, even if you have barbells, whatever you have at home, sandbag, that will all work. Don't do anything super duper heavy, as we are basically going to break down how do we squat and deadlift, okay? So we're gonna start from the very beginning. We're gonna start from the ground up. We're gonna work through our feet. We'll go where our knees are supposed to go. I'll go over breathing and then what I'm looking for from your rib cage, okay? All right, so first we're gonna start with our feet. And the most important, crucial thing is your tripod foot, okay? What do I mean by a tripod foot? If I look at the bottom of my foot, I should have weight under my heel, weight under the ball of my big toe, and weight under the ball of my little toe. Those 3 points will form a foot tripod, okay? As we are squatting or deadlifting, we want to make sure all 3 of those points of contact are evenly distributed, equally on the way down and on the way up. So that'll prevent you from being some of those people who sit too far back in their butt and then their toes come up. Or maybe you're one of those people who is too far on the outside of their feet. Or maybe you're that person who squats and their heels come up, okay? None of those are good squats. They're gonna lead to having some type of issues, whether that's in your feet, hip, knee, back, you name it, okay? So first rule of thumb, make sure you have a stable tripod foot. If you're not sure how to find your tripod foot, what I typically have people do is simply lift their toes, and you should automatically feel the ball of your big toe, ball of your little toe, and your heel, okay? Then you can put your toes down. As you're just standing there, I want you to sense, where do you feel most of the weight? So find your tripod foot and notice, do you have more weight on your right foot? Do you have more weight on your left foot? Do you have more weight on your heels or on the balls of your toes? Figure out where you need to put your body to get that weight evenly distributed, okay? So once you've found that, now for squatting, we are going to take our feet about shoulder width apart, okay? And we want our toes slightly turned out, maybe about 10 to 15 degrees. So we don't want to be way out here with our feet out here, okay? That's not a real stable squat. So feet just outside of our shoulders, slightly toed out. We still want to make sure we have our tripod foot, okay? We're going to slowly descend down into our squat, just like we would sit in a chair. I still have my tripod foot, okay? I never ever let that collapse. I never let this happen. I never let this happen. I never let this happen or this happen, okay? So let's just practice 5 air squats with our tripod foot, okay? Establish our foot tripod. We're not worried about anything else at this point. We're just, where is your foot in space, okay? Slowly lower. See if you can maintain your tripod foot and then come back up. I'll let you guys spend some time doing that. We'll try to work up to 5. Okay. Now, if we think of our knees, we want to have our knees tracking outside over our 5th toe. So here's my 5th toes. Here are my knees. Okay, this is what you should look like at the bottom of your squat, not here. We don't want our knees tracking over our big toe. Okay, we want them out over our 5th toe. Okay, if you can also see what happens to my feet. So here is me having my tripod foot, which creates my nice arch. okay? If I go down and I don't do my fifth toe, boom, and I do my inner toe, it looks like I'm losing my arches over here. Wouldn't you say? That doesn't make for a very stable squat, okay? So knees track out over your fifth toe when you're squatting, whether you're front squatting, back squatting, overhead squatting, okay? The next and crucial thing is going to be, what is your core doing, okay? If you've been following along, you know I talk a lot about breathing, trying to stabilize your core, making sure your back doesn't do this, making sure your ribs stay stacked on your pelvis, so straight line, okay? If I look at all of this midsection here like a bunch of rings, okay, they need to be stacked to create a cylinder. So this is not a stacked position. My ribs are here, my pelvis is here, okay? We want them stacked. Now I'm stacked, okay? That'll provide me stabilization of the glutes and optimal core and pelvic floor stability, okay? So as I'm going down into my back squat, I'm going to show you a side view. You want to make sure you're not tilted or arched back here. So I'm going to tuck my butt. Okay. Now I have my pubic bone here, nice in line with my ribs, which allows me to strengthen my core, keep my core nice and stable. Okay. From there, I'm going to drop right down into my squat position. Okay. I don't ever let this happen. I don't ever separate and let my belly hang out. Okay. I'm nice and stable. So if I'm going to take my kettlebell here, okay, your squat should look like this. Okay, what we don't want to do is tilt the hips back and arch our back, which now leaves my belly vulnerable, and squat. Okay, that's going to put way too much pressure on our lumbar spine and will possibly create herniations in there. Okay, we don't want that to happen. So tuck, sit in your chair. Okay, I'll let you guys practice a couple of those. See what you're feeling. Good. Make sure your ribs are really sticking down on top of your pelvis. We don't want that to open up, okay? If I have a measuring tape from here, from my pubic bone here to the bottom of my ribs, okay? If I have a measuring tape here and it measures 8 inches, okay? I am stacked at 8 inches. As I go down into my squat, I don't want that to open up into 12 inches, okay? If I start at 8 inches here, I want to stay at 8 inches down here. I don't want to be separating and opening up, okay? Which you'll see this sometimes when people front squat. So I have a barbell in my hand, aka PVC pipe, okay? To compensate for lack of range of motion in the shoulder joint, you will often see this happen, okay? So instead of being stacked and staying stacked, you'll see this. Okay, see how arched I am? That is not something that we want to happen either, okay? So let's review with the back squat, front squat, overhead squat, okay? I'm going to use a PVC pipe. If I am back squatting, okay, feet are shoulder width apart, slightly toed out, I have my foot arch. My knees are going to drive over my fifth toe. My chest is going to stay upright. However, it will be stacked with my pelvis, not open, okay? If I'm going to front squat, it's going to be the exact same thing. I'm going to tuck my butt, drop down, core does not change, and then drive back up, okay? If I'm going to overhead squat, it's the exact same thing, okay? Tripod foot, knees go out over the fifth toe. Ribs stay stacked on top of pelvis, okay? When do we breathe when we do this? For the most part, if you're doing super duper light weights, you won't have to worry too much about breathing, other than you still need to stay stable. Okay, so if I'm going to do a bunch of goblet squats here, I'm going to get stable. Ribs are stacked over pelvis. I'm going to take a breath in, fill my belly, and then shh, 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 shh. Okay. If I am doing something heavy, okay, so let's say I'm going to back squat heavy today, okay? Feet are shoulder width apart, slightly toed out. I have my arch. Knees are going to travel over my fifth toes. I'm making sure I'm not arched. Ribs are stacked over top of my pelvis. I'm going to take my big breath in and fill my belly and my back and into the outer part of my ribs. And I'm going to hold that till I get past the hardest part of the lift, okay? So take a big breath in. All right. When you take your breath in, and this goes back to our previous breathing videos. If you don't remember, go back to a couple videos. It'll talk about like breathing and bracing. You want to make sure you're breathing fully into the belly, making the belly fat. You're breathing 360 degrees around, okay? If you have a piece of TheraBand at home or a weight belt and you want to put that around you to practice your breathing, you can. As you take your breath in, you want to think about pushing out 360 degrees around into that belt. So if you don't feel any air going in back here to that belt, that's telling you you're not breathing in back there, okay? You might need to go back and regress some of the breathing exercises so that you can feel air going into the small of your back, okay? Once you take your big breath in, so you're taking my big breath in, you're going to bear down, okay? Tighten your core like someone's going to come up and punch you in the gut. You know how you kind of do it like that? Okay, I'm tight. You're tight, but you're also built in air and pressurized, okay? It is not sucking air in. We're not doing that, okay? We are still breathing out into our belly, 360 degrees, okay? Is everybody good with that so far? Everyone understands? Yeah, we don't want our knees coming in because that's going to make us lose our arches. And we call that pronation, which is not an ideal position you want to be squatting a lot of weight in. Okay, so that's why. Okay, hip hinging and deadlifting, it's pretty much the same. There's a lot of the same cues. The setup is slightly different. Okay, so the squat that we just went over, that is more of a knee dominant exercise. The hip hinge or deadlift is a hip dominant exercise, okay? So with the squats, we're bending our knees, okay? With deadlifting or hip hinging, we are just hinging at the hip. So the hips go back like I'm shutting a car door with my butt, and then they're coming forward. There is a slight bend in the knee, okay? So the movement is coming from here. So your butt's gonna get squeezed to bring your hips forward. Then you're gonna crack at the hip, squeeze your butt. Crack at the hip, squeeze your butt, okay? That's the motion that you're doing. You still have a tripod foot. However, your feet are now underneath of you. They're underneath your hips. They're not out here, okay? And they can be slightly toed out if you would like. That is our start position for our feet, okay? Our back, which tends to be a little more confusing for people, I'm gonna put this PVC pipe behind my back, and this is gonna tell me if I'm cheating with my spinal curves, okay? So I want the PVC pipe on my butt bone or my sacrum, and I want it resting on the back of my head. These 2 points need to stay in contact the whole time. From there, I'm just gonna hinge at my hips and pray to God those 2 spots stay there, and they do. And then I'm gonna squeeze my butt to come back up. How you know you're not keeping your spinal curve is you will see this. okay? Now I have no contact. Or you'll see this, I have no contact. You're gonna have to figure out, root around, get your spine where it needs to be, where you can maintain those 2 points of contact. That is your position for hip hinging or deadlifting, okay? And you're still doing, yes, you are still doing the ribs stacked over top of the pelvis. The breathing is the same, okay? So if I was going to deadlift with a barbell, okay, I got my feet underneath my hips. I have my tripod foot. I am going, actually the bar starts from the ground, so it's going to start mid-shin, okay? I still have my back position where it needs to be, so I'm not here and I'm not overextended either, okay? I'm in my spinal position we just found with the PVC pipe, okay? I'm going to use my glutes and drive through the floor with my feet to stand the bar up. From there, I'm going to hinge at my hip like I'm shutting a car door, allowing the bar to literally slide down my legs until I get to my knees, and then I'm going to bend a little bit, okay? This is the start position you should be in, not here. This is a squat. This is a deadlift, okay? If I'm going to use a kettlebell and deadlift, it's going to start right between the arches of my feet, okay? So again, nothing has really changed. My setup is still the same. I'm going to hinge at the hip, slight bend in the knee, pick up my kettlebell, okay? Squeeze my butt to come up. I'll show you from the side. Kettlebell is between my arches. I have my tripod feet. Hips are underneath my knees. I'm going to hinge. I still have my spinal curve. I did not lose that. Okay, slight bend in the knee. I'm going to squeeze my butt to get the kettlebell to come up. Hinge, come up. Okay. Everyone good? Anyone have any questions? If you do not have a PVC pipe at home, you can use a yardstick, a dowel, anything that you may have at home, just as long as you're maintaining those points of contact, okay? Deadlifting is very similar to kettlebell swings. I have a MoveWell we did a couple weeks ago on how to do kettlebell swings, so if you need a refresher, you can go back and look at the kettlebell swing one. Your kettlebell swing should look like a hip hinge, not a squat. Okay, that's one thing that drives me crazy. I see a lot of that. You'll see kettlebell swings that look like this. Okay, these are way too squatty. This is not how you do a kettlebell swing. This is how you do a kettlebell swing. So I'm just hinging, just like I do with my deadlift. Okay. Here's my deadlift. Here's my hip hinge for a kettlebell. Okay. All right. Practice, practice. Let me know how it goes. Message me if you have any issues. If you want more of a personal one-on-one assessment, I can do that for you too. If you want to go over things more in depth, feel free to hit me up. All right. All right, thanks guys. I will see you next week.